Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a battle in the Neptune. Now, this battle is going to be a pretty close battle, pretty intense. I really did enjoy this battle. But anyway, in case you were wondering, this was played after the most recent patch, so we will have the new smoke mechanics in-game. But speaking about the newest patch here, I am curious to know what you guys think so far of the Halloween event, the Halloween operation. I did go ahead and play that a bit. I only managed to complete it with 3 stars, so I do still have a little bit of work there to get the 5-star completion. What else new do we have? We have new clan battles in game. I'm not sure if any one of you got to take advantage of that as of yet, but I did have the opportunity to play a few games last night, and it was quite enjoyable. I had a great time, with the understanding, of course, right, that this is like the first season of when this of this ever taking place. So obviously, a lot of experimenting is going to be taking place during this first season, and I really think it's important. You know, I've heard people say it as well. Just to remember to check your expectations of these clan battles, right? This is the first iteration of them, so there will be changes. We all know there will be this wargaming, so it'll be interesting to see what those changes entail. But for now, I had a great time playing the battles that I played last night. Anyway, here on Two Brothers in the Neptune. Now, I was excited to get the Neptune out last night and play with her, and for a few reasons. I mean, I'm getting fairly close to the Minotaur now. I might be maybe 70 or 80,000 experience away. I still need like 15 million credits before I'll be able to buy the Minotaur. But Minotaur will definitely be my my next tier 10 cruiser purchase. And actually, it makes me a little sad to say that, because I really want that Henry, but the Henry is going to take a lot more time than it will take to get the Minotaur, so it'll probably be a Minotaur. But anyway, excited to take out the Neptune because I'm close to the Minotaur, but I also wanted to see these changes to the smoke, right? Because I'm not a battleship captain. I've never claimed to be a battleship captain, so obviously my critique of the smoke is going to be a little skewed when compared to battleship captains, right? Because they're the ones who maybe this affects a lot more than, say, myself in a Neptune. But obviously I haven't really noticed anything different. But that also goes with playstyle, right? And I've heard it said a few times before already, since the changes and before the changes. You know, if you're in a cruiser, and now I think with the changes, the cruisers fire their guns and you're visible out to like 7 or 8 kilometers, somewhere around there, depending on the cruiser. Anyway, if you're a cruiser captain and you have smoke, and you pop your smoke, and the enemy is like 7 or 8 kilometers away from you, you've already done it wrong. You've already made your first mistake. So, you know, to change or to add this extra, you know, chance of getting spotted further out when you're in smoke and firing into cruisers, to me isn't that big of a deal, because if I'm in a cruiser that has smoke, it's going to be my Kutuzov or my British cruisers, and if I'm in those cruisers, especially the British cruisers, I have to go to a certain speed before I can even pop the smoke. And with the Kutuzov, it's a little better, but you do still have to come to that stop. And if you're coming to that stop, like, you know, 7 to 8 kilometers away from an enemy, you've already done it wrong. You're probably going to die. The smoke isn't going to make a difference. So there's that. So for me, it doesn't really affect me. Now, I do understand some battleship captains' concerns, especially, you know, to be fair, we have German battleships in game. Now, German battleships in game do count a lot on getting in close, dishing out a bunch of damage. That's where they're most effective, in close, medium to close range. At range, their guns aren't very accurate. It's not going to be a great time. So, I mean, it used to be awesome to get, especially, you know, in Supremacy or even in these random battles, to get a few Bismarcks smoked up so they cannot be spotted. The Bismarcks can then cycle between their hydroacoustic, and you can just destroy things close in like no one's business. But you can't necessarily do that anymore because of these new smoke changes, and now it does kind of leave the German battleships out a little, maybe, potentially, because you can't necessarily do that strategy anymore, really close in anyway, right? Now, there's arguments to be made the other way. You know, this promotes different type of play from the battleships and all of that lovely stuff, and it's true. I'm not trying to say that what they did to the smoke changes is bad. However, based on my experience and the ships that I play in game, I think it's been good. It's not very noticeable, the way I play my ships, so I don't have to play my ships any different. If a battleship captain has to switch their play style, well, so be it, I guess. Didn't really affect me. Doesn't mean I don't care about the changes, obviously, but I do, from what I've seen and from some of the more cool-headed people that I've talked to and listened talk about these changes of the smoke, I think they're fairly good. Obviously, you know, there's still work to be done, but overall, I'm happy enough with them. So while I've been ranting on about all of this, obviously, we can see that the battle has progressed. So my allies over there on the east are now into that eastern cap zone, and they are capping it. So this is good, because over here on the west, I wasn't too convinced that we were really able to push. Now, I know that that sounds bad, considering the amount of ships, yeah, there they are right there, that we see right there, right? It probably looks like a good pushing force. But I wasn't totally convinced that we'd be able to do it, and most of it is because of the ship that I'm in, the Neptune. I don't necessarily like pushing in a cruiser at all like this, especially considering I know that there, you know, are big battleships out there off in the distance, so things could get a little hairy for us here. But at the same time, I'm not just going to sit around in the back. I'm going to try and do something here. Now, the Neptune, and like most of the British cruisers, they accelerate pretty quick. You know, they're pretty responsive in the water, and that you can maneuver around quite easily. And this is good, so that when you don't have your smoke and you don't have the chance to actually get in smoke and cover yourself up, you have the opportunity to dodge shells pretty easily, and that makes the survivability of these cruisers a little better. But anyway, over here on the west side, we do have our point. We've got this western point, so this is good. If we can get that eastern point, we'll have 2-to-1, or, well, 3-to-1 cap advantage over the enemy, and then, you know, hopefully victory will be ours. Now, basically, this entire match, my team has been doing pretty good. We've maintained a lead in the points, not a decent lead, but we've maintained a lead in the points. We're capping our third base right now, so things are looking very, very good for us indeed. And there we go, we just capped the eastern base, so not too shabby at all. Things are going to go downhill pretty quickly, as they normally do. Normally, you know, things tend to go downhill very, very fast, and it's going to happen over there on the east. On the east side of the map, as you know, happy as I was that, oh great, you know, they're doing the push over there, and they just capped that point. It's totally, I think, looking back in retrospect, probably a bad call, right? On the east, they were scraping by. They took their losses. I think there's only 3 ships of them over there right now, so they definitely had their issues over there, and it really should have been us over here on the west pushing. And instead, we just kind of stood back and let it happen. But whatever. No more. I've realized it now in game, and you know, we're starting to push. So now I know that, yeah, we got to get into that southern point, and I've got to take that southern point, because we're going to lose the eastern point anytime at all. And essentially, we've all played this game on Two Brothers, Ring Around the Rosie. Our ships are then going to engage in that sort of maneuver, and it's not the sort of a maneuver that you want to juggle with trying to keep cap parity. If we can at least have one cap advantage, maybe the game of Ring Around the Rosie will go a little better, maybe. But in the meantime, I am trying to take out this Kutuzov, right? I mean, the Kutuzov is a pretty big threat to my allied destroyers, and it was on fairly low health to begin with, so I felt pretty good about being able to take that player down. So there we go, Kutuzov gone. Excellent. Now we're turning our guns and taking a look at what the enemy's got going on over here on the eastern side of the map, right? We can see their cap in between us and them. We see this enemy Nagato player. Now, important to note about the Nagato player is that Nagato player does have the Yamamoto captain. Speaking of which, A little upset to see that those missions were bugged out yesterday. I haven't checked today to see if they are yet, but they definitely were yesterday. Anyway, we can tell that it's the Yamamoto captain because, of course, the red tracer is coming in after the shells. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to be careful, more cautious with this enemy battleship, but it definitely heightens your awareness anyway, that you don't want to fall victim to this person. It could be a celebration on the enemy team, and I don't want to give them any reason to celebrate. So we have shots going in on the enemy Nagato, trying to get those shots in to do a bit of damage. You can see that I did have an allied Iowa with me, some sort of American battleship here with me as well. So hopefully this player will be able to get into the cap and help me out here a bit as well, because I'm not going to be able to fare too well against Nagato. I mean, I don't have the armor to take any hits from the Nagato, and I'm getting fairly lucky with my hits that I've been taking so far. Nagato is coming to a stop ever so slightly, but you can see the real trick with these British cruisers. Not really a trick, but you do a little bit of damage at a time, but that little bit of damage at a time equates to a whole bunch of damage in a very short amount of time, and people get lulled into a false sense of security thinking, oh, it's just a little bit of damage here, a little bit of damage there, no big deal. But a minute goes by, and next thing you know, 3/4 of your health is gone. That is something that I really do like about the British cruisers. No other cruiser can really do that for me on a consistent basis anyway. So we're going to get ourselves into the southern cap point here, and we're going to try to cap this point. You can see the enemy did take the eastern cap zone. They're killing more of my allies. The lead that we have in points is not very good at all. Not good. In fact, do we even have the lead? I don't think we even have the lead anymore. It's getting precarious here. We only have 5 allied ships remaining, and you can see the allied destroyer that I have here next to me. Now this allied destroyer, pay attention to this player. This player is going to do an excellent job here in the closing moves of our game. So we have a rune that pops up. I'm very, very lucky that it was in fact the rune that was back here, and I'm lucky because it was a rune, because there's only 1 turret on the front of that rune, so I only have to dodge 3 shells coming at me as opposed to 6 that it might be from another cruiser. So this is good. This is very good. And the rune, obviously, we know the rune's an amazing ship, so I was not very pleased about the rune being here, but I was going to use it to my advantage, the fact that the rune is bow onto me, and try and make the most of this. So we're just going to continue to pump shells into the rune as best as I possibly can. You can see I was trying to angle there at the beginning, but now that I know that torpedoes are on the way and the rune is on such low health, I'm just going to try and get all guns off before the rune has a chance to put a full salvo into me. And there we go. We managed it. We got a Confederate out of it, so that's great. And the rune is gone. Perfect. We're turning now just so we can complete the cap of the southern zone. We know that the enemies do have some ships, most likely some enemy ships are going to be headed to that northern cap, but there are only 3 of us remaining, right? There's myself, this enemy destroyer, and the battleship behind us. The battleship behind us is no slouch either. I believe it's a Bismarck. So I shouldn't just talk up the Allied destroyer. The Allied battleship played a nice role here as well. And it's only the 3 of us. We got lucky, too, and that the 3 of us are all together here at the southern end of the battle, or southern end of the map. So now, together, we can try and get ourselves into the eastern cap zone. And we do have to cap the eastern cap zone because the enemies who are capping north are quickly going to switch over to the west once the north is capped, and then they will be, an enemy will be a 3 cap advantage over us, and we just can't have that. It's still kind of close, maybe, sort of. If we can, maybe pull a rabbit out of our hats, we might actually get a victory out of this one, and it would be quite a victory indeed. I mean, I'm already sitting on 135,000 damage, so that's pretty good. Nothing wrong with that. If I can do a bit more, that'd be even better. So we see some enemy ships pop up. We do have an enemy Bismarck over there, and I think that is the enemy Nagato that we see right now as well. So 2 battleships. And we all know the British cruisers do not fare well against battleships whatsoever. Doesn't do well at all. So I'm really counting on my Allied destroyer and my Allied battleship to absorb and deal out some damage here. I should be able to hold my own in terms of dealing out damage against this Nagato and the Bismarck, but only if those people aren't actually focused on me. So you can see I bring my ship to a slow stop here, and we're going to start firing it on the Nagato. The Nagato's on the lowest health, and I figure that I can probably get this player down fairly easily and then switch on over to the Bismarck. That's the plan anyway. We can see the enemy Kutov pops up there as well, and the enemy Kutov lays out some smoke for the Nagato, and the Kutov himself as well. So the Kutov goes out of view. There we go. My allied destroyer comes in and takes out the enemy Nagato. Perfect. Now we're going to start firing at the enemy Bismarck. So a little tip for you, when you're firing your British cruisers at enemy battleships like this, you are aiming for the superstructure. You are not aiming for the front two turrets. You're not aiming for the back two turrets. You're aiming for everything in between those turrets. Because if you hit the turret, your shells are just going to bounce off. They're not going to do anything. Turtleback armor, it's going to happen. But if you hit the superstructure, the stuff in between the turrets, you will find that you can do some great damage very consistently, like we can see here, right? The enemy Bismarck is quickly going down. Now again, credit where credit is due. Allied battleship, right? Allied battleship just sailed in front of us, dealt out a bunch of damage, taken the damage as well as prolonging my and my allied destroyer's life, so very, very good. Now you can see obviously our Bismarck did pay for that. Now we know that there's an enemy ship back there, and there he is, St. Louis. So we got the tier 9 French cruiser, so we're going to start putting shots into this player. I'm already moving out of my smoke because my smoke is almost done, and I'm going to try and get the St. Louis gone as best as I possibly can while getting myself into the eastern cap, because at this point in time they've already taken the southern cap. I don't know who else is with the St. Louis. I'm not willing to take a chance. I'm just going to go ahead and get myself into the eastern cap zone with my allies here as well. There we go, our allied Bismarck goes down. That is a shame. Just myself and my allied destroyer remaining. Enemy Kutov pops up, so I'm going to launch off some torpedoes at the Kutov. Hopefully those will do something, but in the meantime I'm just going to start firing at the Kutov. I'm going to try and use my speed maneuverability here to avoid as many shells as I possibly can, but it's really, really hard considering the lack of armor that these British cruisers have. The Kutov, no slouch, firing AP at me, and basically anywhere that AP is good, hits me is going to be fairly devastating. So we're going to launch off some more torpedoes here at the St. Louis and hope that maybe those torpedoes as well will hit the St. Louis. Those torpedoes that we have incoming for the Kutov look pretty decent. We can see the Kutov did take one torpedo from my allied destroyer. One of my torpedoes goes in, finishes off the Kutov. Kutov returns fire, finishes off me. Damn. We still have a chance though. We still have a chance. My allied destroyer is still going, right? So if my allied destroyer could pull off some sort of miracle here, we might win this. Now, take a look at the points and the situation. So 2 enemy ships versus our 1 enemy ship. My allied destroyer, this guy has to take out the St. Louis. Has to do it in order for us to gain back the point advantage. And we need to gain the point advantage because the enemies have 3 of the caps. So it's pretty critical that we get this done. So you can see my allied destroyer is doing a great job at, best he can, or best as a player can, to try and get hit points gone on the St. Louis rather, and get this player down. And it's working. We can see the St. Louis is on fire, I believe, or maybe with that salvo puts him on fire. So, just a few hit points remaining, and the St. Louis will go down. Now, at the same time, we have that enemy Fletcher back there, and the Fletcher is what really scared me. Like, I was fairly ecstatic when that happened, and the St. Louis went down, fairly ecstatic. But I was so concerned about the Fletcher. I was convinced that the Fletcher was going to cause us the battle. Again, allied destroyer, no slouch, is opening up the distance, expanding away from the enemy to break contact, but also to get into position to fire torpedoes. These torpedoes, I mean, they were guided by maybe the god of RNJesus. I think that's the term that the people use. Anyway, because those torpedoes are really going to come into handy here now. So I was expecting, right, my ally to go into the northern point. This was going to be a bit of a stretch as to whether or not we were going to win. Again, we need to take a cap in order to even out the odds. But keep an eye on those torpedoes there. The Fletcher, I don't know really what the Fletcher was doing, but there we go. Allied hits the Fletcher, and we win. What a game. I was so thrilled with this game. But anyway, we'll take a look at the final results here. So 184,000 damage dealt. I managed the Confederate and the high caliber, which is not too bad. We get some kills, do some citadels, we got a torp hit, we finished some missions there at the bottom, so pretty great game. Top of the team overall, and of course, in second place is my allied destroyer. Fantastic. So we can see how some of the damage has broken down here. You know, again, spread across most of the enemy team, which is consistent with the old Confederate medal that I do enjoy getting. 239,000 credits when all is said and done, and then of course some experience as well. I was quite thrilled with the outcome of this battle. I couldn't believe it. In fact, what I'm looking for here is I go back and I take a look at the whatchamacall. I take a look at my ally, and my ally destroyers who get the names so that I can mark it down, because I went ahead afterwards and provided the player a compliment, because it was, you know, job well done. Something they still never fix is this damn chat glitch, right? Like, I come in a battle, someone messages me while I'm in battle, I come out, game thing pops up, and I can't see it. I don't know what they said. Anyway, they'll get on it. But anyway, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, you know, to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Remember to hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.